This lady is named Horim. She functioned as a medium and collaborated with another medium, Bong-gil. They journeyed to Los Angeles, USA, to attend to customers who sought their expertise. Once they landed in Los Angeles, they directly visited a hospital to check on their client's infant, who seemed to be affected by a paranormal disruption. The mother, upon seeing Horim and Bong-gil, appeared somewhat skeptical, but Horim, accustomed to such reactions, disregarded it and promptly performed a ceremony to determine the reason for the infant's troubles. Shortly thereafter, she discovered that the baby's issues were actually stemming from the family's lineage. Upon hearing everything, the infant's mother, initially a skeptic, was taken aback. Following a probe at the medical facility, Horim and Bong, Illinois proceeded to consult the infant's father for further insights. Jae-hyun, the father, was their employer. He confessed that he was originally a non-believer in the paranormal afflictions plaguing his kin. However, after seeing his own brother's self-inflicted demise and his child's ailment, he became a convert and sought aid from Horim and Bong-gil, despite his family's disapproval. Horim shared her investigative findings with him, confirming that the dread was due to meddling from Jae-young's ancestral spirit, who was interred incorrectly and needed urgent reburial or incineration. For this cause, Horim sought assistance from her mentor, Seon Deok, and another adept named Jang Jae-hyun. Both were adept in handling any mystical matters. After Soon-jun completed their tasks for the day, they received a visit from Horim and Bong-gil, who proposed a lucrative assignment. Naturally, they both consented to the proposition promptly, without considering the potential dangers involved. To put it briefly, the quartet promptly embarked on resolving Ji-young's dilemma by attempting to relocate the burial site of Ji-young's forebear. Amidst the task, Soon-dak sensed an anomaly but chose to remain silent about his intuition. The resting place of Ji-young's forefather was situated at the base of a hill, and as they reached the tomb, Soon-dak had an inkling that Ji-young was concealing something from the group. After inspecting the vicinity of the tomb, Soon-dak declared he couldn't relocate the grave due to a particular cause. This revelation startled Horim and her companions, as it was unprecedented for Soon-dak to decline an assignment. Horim, not wishing to let down her patron after a substantial payment, endeavored to convince Soon-dak to resume their task, yet he remained resolute in his refusal. He explained that the tomb lay in an accursed locale, and persisting might compromise their well-being. Nonetheless, Jae-hyun persisted in pleading with Horim for aid, fearing inaction would imperil his infant. Upon hearing his plea, Horim resolved to assist by performing a ceremony known as the substitution of malevolence, designed to deceive malevolent entities, ensuring the grave's transfer wouldn't unleash calamity or afflict anyone with a hex. Soon-dak was reluctant, yet Horim was adamant about fulfilling her duties. Eventually, the ceremony took place. During the ritual, Hae-chwarang persisted in her dance, brandishing a blade as though entranced, while Bong-gil kept the rhythm on a drum. After the ceremony, Yeon-jun commanded the grave diggers to excavate the remains immediately. Initially, all appeared to progress smoothly without any hindrances, but unbeknownst to the group, after their departure, one of the grave diggers, comparable in stature to them, encountered a snake. With the shell in his possession, he dispatched the serpent, and at that moment, the skies darkened abruptly, portending ill omens. Continuing their journey to the burial site, the ring unexpectedly dropped. Seon-dak perceived this as an ominous sign and advised Ji-young to delay the interment until the next day. Ji-young concurred and opted to store the corpse in the mortuary under Yeon-jun's watch, while Seon-dak, sensing an oddity, ventured to a nearby temple from the original gravesite. There, he encountered an individual and inquired if the person was familiar with the backstory of Ji-young's ancestor's grave on the hillside. The individual relayed that, as per local lore, the grave was that of the wealthiest individual in the north and a frequent mark for tomb raiders. Yet no raider ever managed to breach the sepulchre, and instead the would-be plunderers met their demise, victims of the curse cast upon the grave. Upon learning this, Soon-dak hastened to reach out to Horim. In the meantime, a custodian at the mortuary attempted to pry open the casket of Jae-hyun's forebear, lured by the riches within. As Horim and Bong-gil arrived, the guard had slightly unlatched the coffin, and suddenly, a chill breeze escaped, causing Horim to faint on the spot. Soon-dak and Yeon-jun, upon hearing of the mishap, rushed to Horim's side, who was now receiving care at the hospital. Horim claimed that a malevolent presence had emerged from the coffin. Concurrently, an elderly kin of Ji-young was observed opening a casement, drawn by a noise from outside. Abruptly, an entity infiltrated the residence and caused the demise of the elderly man. Horim was observed conducting a ceremony to draw the spirit into Bong-gil's form to discern its intentions. Horim ultimately ascertained that the spirit sought the ruin of all its progeny. Upon this revelation, she swiftly got in touch with Soon-dak to hasten to Ji-young's abode. Concurrently, Ji-young, in solitude, received an unexpected call from Seon Deok, advising him to open the casement and distance himself from the entrance, citing that the spirit was in pursuit of him. Contrarily, it was revealed that the caller was not Seon Deok but the spirit itself, while the genuine Seon Deok, upon his arrival, discovered Ji-young under the spirit's possession. Soon after, Ji-young lost consciousness. Sensing the escalating danger to the clan's safety, Seon-deok urgently reached out to Horim and the rest to incinerate Ji-young's ancestors' remains, lest the whole family, infant included, fall prey to the curse. The spirit seemed to fixate on the newborn, but timely action by Horim's group, who promptly incinerated the remains, averted any harm. Subsequently, Seon-deok set out to meet an individual after learning that the grave digger had fallen gravely ill post-visit to the tomb. In conversation, the digger repeatedly mentioned slaying an unusual serpent at the gravesite. Alarmed by this, Seon-deok revisited the original burial ground to verify the digger's account. After excavating for some time, he was startled to discover a serpent with a humanoid head. His spade inadvertently struck an object, and with further digging, he unearthed another casket. Sensing the peculiarity due to the casket's atypical placement, he promptly summoned Yeon-jun, Bong-gil, and Horim. Shortly upon their arrival, the trio was taken aback by their discovery. Reports indicated that the casket, when discovered, was interred upright and shackled, suggesting it was meant to remain sealed. Adding to the peculiarity, the casket was as tall as 2 grown adults. Horim sensed a malevolence surpassing the spirits of Ji-young's forebears. Seon-deok, fearing calamity if the casket remained unsealed, resolved to reseal it. With no alternative, they transported the enigmatic casket, and as night fell, Seon-deok suggested they seek refuge at the temple. Concerned about the cryptic casket, Horim requested the monk provide sticky rice to create a protective barrier against any malevolent force that might emerge. She also instructed Bong-gil to procure the blood of a white horse to fortify the barrier. Meanwhile, Seon-deok, puzzled by the unfolding events, reached out to Ji-young's aunt to disclose the full situation. When she learned of this, the woman began to explain why her forebear was interred there. It emerged that her forebear was a merchant from the north. She was unaware of the presence of a second casket beneath the burial site. She then presented an old photograph, sensing that little could be discovered about this enigmatic casket. Seon-deok requested Bong-gil to recite some incantations to ensure their safety. Subsequently, they savored the meal the monk had made and promptly fell asleep, oblivious to the imminent peril that was stealthily approaching. That night, the monk detected a sound and proceeded to investigate its origin. While resting, Bong-gil felt a weight upon him but was able to drive away the oppressive spirit. Alerted by noises from the sarcophagus, he investigated and discovered a specter assaulting the monk. Alarmed, he hastened to inform Horim, who was in the vehicle, to inspect the sarcophagus together. They were aghast to find the sarcophagus shattered and its occupant escaped through an unsealed roof. Recalling the malevolent spirit he had encountered, Bong-gil trembled with dread. Noticing his perturbed demeanor, Horim instructed him to rouse Seon-deok and Yeon-jun without delay. Shortly thereafter, Horim beheld the malevolent spirit garbed in archaic warrior attire, which sent shivers down her spine. More terrifying still, the spirit clutched the monk's severed head. It then addressed her in Japanese. Recognizing the spirit's overwhelming might, Horim feigned subservience, bowing deeply, as though she were an acolyte of the sinister force. Yet the spirit discerned her guise and lunged to assail her. She fled swiftly from the scene. Bong-gil intervened, wielding a metal bar. He thrust it at the spirit, but to no avail. The spirit remained unscathed and retaliated, rendering him senseless. As the spirit prepared to strike Horim, the sight of a diminutive shrine triggered a recollection within it. The specter conjured a charm and morphed into a fiery orb before vanishing. Seon-deok and Yeon-jun were astounded by the spectacle. Once the spirit departed, Horim urged Seon-deok to summon medical aid for Bong-gil. The ambulance swiftly arrived, and Bong-gil was conveyed to the hospital for care. In the meantime, Seon-deok revisited the shrine to assess the situation and identify the spirit. Recalling the monk's mention of the grave robber's belongings in the temple's storeroom, he scoured the area until he stumbled upon a photograph of the individuals the monk had alluded to. Upon examination, Seon-deok discerned that the so-called band of robbers was, in fact, the original grave diggers. After uncovering some leads, Seon-deok revisited the grave to search for additional evidence. Concurrently, Horim, stationed at the hospital beside Bong-gil, received a visit from Bong-gil's kin. Aware that an evil spirit had taken hold of Bong-gil, Horim implored his relatives to conduct a seance to unveil the true identity of the malevolent entity. During the seance, Horim inquired about the identity of the spirit and its motives for possessing Bong-gil. The spirit divulged that it was once a Japanese military commander who loyally served the emperor and now sought a new host to resurrect and safeguard a relic entrusted to him. While Seon-deok was excavating the grave in search of hidden secrets, he was stunned to discover the cadaver of the malevolent spirit back in its original resting place. He sought out Yeon-jun to deliberate over his find, a hexed metal that blighted the land. To lift the curse, they needed to unearth this accursed metal, likely interred near the wicked spirit's sarcophagus. Upon informing Horim, she acknowledged that hunting for the hexed metal was akin to courting death. Nevertheless, as it was the sole means to prevent Bong-gil's possession by the evil spirit, she concurred with Seon-deok's strategy to retrieve the cursed metal. Together, they devised a plan to coax the evil spirit from its grave. Bong-gil's sudden seizures halted their discussion. As the physician attended to Bong-gil, Warham noticed the evil spirit had spared the tattooed parts of his body. This observation led them to consider temporary tattoos as a protective measure against the spirit's harm. Thus, Horim, Sondok, and Jang Jae-hyun made their way back to the grave of the malevolent spirit. To entice the spirit, they used fish as bait. With their preparations complete, they concealed themselves, awaiting the spirit's emergence. As darkness enveloped them, they witnessed the spirit succumb to the lure they had set. Simultaneously, Bong-gil's family prepared at the hospital for any adverse events. As the malevolent spirit emerged, lured to a smoke-shrouded tree, Sondok and Jang Jae-hyun hastened to the grave to excavate the accursed metal, while Horim engaged the spirit in dialogue, feigning the role of the hill's protective deity. Aware of the spirit's delusion of ongoing warfare, Horim asserted the conflict's end, which the spirit contested, insisting the battle raged on. Despite her trepidation, Horim persisted, urging the spirit to abandon the hill. Yet the spirit rebuffed her, haughtily proclaiming obedience solely to the emperor's command. Amidst their search, Sondok and Jang Jae-hyun were engulfed in frustration, unable to locate their target. And to make matters worse, Sondok's hoe shattered. Jang Jae-hyun felt the peril escalating, deeming it unsafe to persist. Meanwhile, Horim, stalling for time, was unmasked by the malevolent spirit, which promptly assailed her. Fortuitously, an elderly woman, revealed to be Horim's forebear, intervened, facilitating Horim's narrow escape from the spirit's clutches. In haste, she sought out Sondok to inquire about his progress. Subsequently, she encountered Jang Jae-hyun, who conveyed the disheartening news that their search had yielded nothing. In a dramatic turn, a fiery sphere, the physical manifestation of the malevolent spirit, surged toward the gravesite. Sondok, who lingered in the excavation, was jolted by the sudden confrontation with the spirit. The entity, intent on seizing Sondok's heart, was thwarted by the timely intervention of Horim and Jang Jae-hyun. Dousing the evil spirit with the white horse blood they had at the ready, it vanished from sight. They hastened to aid Sondok, but in a startling turn, the spirit re-emerged and seized them. It was then Sondok had an unforeseen realization the accursed iron they sought was within the spirit itself. He understood that to vanquish the spirit, akin to metal and flame, they needed wet wood, the antithesis of the cursed iron, as it would be vulnerable to its symbolic opposite. Grasping the hoe handle nearby, he struck the evil spirit, causing it immediate agony. Sondok continued his assault on the spirit, aiming to vanquish it. As the spirit dissipated, Bong-gil's consciousness was restored. Following the ordeal, Horim and Jang Jae-hyun remained at the hospital, vigilant over Sondok's recovery. Bong-gil swiftly recuperated and joined them in their watchful care. Months passed and Sondok healed from his wounds, though Horim was still tormented by the memory of the spirit's pursuit. With time, these haunting visions gradually faded. The story concluded with a serene snapshot of the quartet, celebrating at Sondok's offspring's nuptials. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to catch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.